4:07 p.m. Pam, can you please call us to order?
At 4:07 p.m. on February the 27th. Board meeting is now called to order. All trustees are present with the exception of Belen Robles and Von Nasa.
Is there anyone here for public comment? Once, twice? Nope. Okay.
Chair Fiera, board members, good afternoon. I'll go ahead and get started with the Rio Grande rezoning application update. If you recall, last time when we met, I told you that all we had to do is go pick up the paperwork and read it, get it signed, and run it by legal. Since then, the very next morning, Mr. Saloon, Andrew Saloon with the city called me and said that they needed more information on the height. It seems like there's a little bit of concern about the height of the building. So, so we took that seriously and we revised the letter that I initially sent them with some questions. They had 5 questions, but the one that was really in question now was the height. And we sent them just this afternoon, right after lunch. I sent them this letter. Oh, this is not interesting. I wonder if I copied the. Well, you can see your attachments. A copy of a letter I sent them that basically goes over. Yeah. It just goes over the building, and now it goes in the context with the surrounding buildings, and we try to focus more on, instead of focusing on every single building like we initially submitted to the city, we focus more on the tall buildings, even that hotel that's being built, we focused on that because we felt it would give us a little more leverage. We also pointed out that there is, and actually even I was surprised by that, there's a 69-foot drop from the top of the Rio Grande Street to the bottom where ours intercepts are.
Are you envisioning issues, or is this normal?
Well, no, I actually, to be perfectly honest, it took us a little bit aback because this is some information that we had provided back early January, and at the time there were no issues. When we take it to the planning commission, there was no issues. So we suspect that maybe there's a little more of a push now to take into consideration the height of the building. So if you all know anybody with a council or that you could talk to and see if there's anything out there about that. But we did really literally everything we could to demonstrate that that this building will fit in very nicely with the environment. And it's I didn't copy the whole layer, but mostly the area, the attachment that regarding the height, because that's really what I've changed.
And a follow-up date from them?
That I don't have yet, but they did tell me until I responded to their question, it was going to be on hold. So that's why we turned this around so quickly, because we didn't want to delay this any further. And so we basically, like I said, just sent it a few hours ago. And we didn't make a point of saying if you have any additional questions.
Yeah, a couple of things. That's sort of the letter. I think he was able to pull it off.
Thank you. Yeah,
so
that's it. Yeah.
They
Thank you.
We were under the understanding that everything was in order, and that the planning commission had ruled. Well, they ruled in favor, but it was just going to go straight to the city council, and then we kept getting these questions. Probably somebody's asking the questions, and that's being brought down to us. We have an ally. We believe that we have an ally of the gentleman who is requesting the information, who wants to pass through the whole application. So it hasn't been controversial or confrontational at all. He's been asking questions. We provided the answers. Ms. Hegman has been very kind, helping us look at the letter, make sure, and Mr. Gallardo as well, make sure that we're kosher with our language in all respects. So I think that once the questions are answered and to the satisfaction, as Paulo was saying, we're basically showing that our building is at a reasonable height when compared to the overall area, not just the block, but throughout. And basically, we even pulled the property that you just, or that is being sold to has been sold to EPISD because it's in the neighborhood, if you will, and the hotel that is being done on the south side of ITC. So we're providing the information. What Paulo was referring to, if you know anybody at the council position, we'll let you know very soon. Whenever we know that it's going to be presented, we'll let you know so that you can perhaps talk to people and say how important this project is for the college. I mean, it's really all we can do.
Thank you.
Okay, so, and here's actually what I was talking about. You can tell from there to there, there's a 69-foot drop. That's why the building looks so small when you're up on top looking down. And I think this is important to point out. Now, going into Trans Mountain construction progress, we told you last time, Matt, about...
Step back just for 1 minute.
Yes, sir.
How long can we wait before we start?
If we go to the city council in March, we're okay.
When we say we're okay, this project is already pushing 20, the spring of 20. So, and it had nothing to do with our project manager. This was several different pieces between the city and Sunset Heights and the college as far as adding an additional floor. So this is already a spring of 2020 project. It doesn't push it beyond that. We're still good with that. I'd also, in my meeting with ECM and them briefing each other, members of the board, they also indicated that it does feel that we have an ally that's guiding us from the city in that they said take a broader look. Don't just look at your campus. For instance, go out to Stanton, show how tall Stanton is. This really isn't a building that's out of the ordinary, but providing us with good guidance on how to try and take this forward. But I do encourage our board that any insight or any that they may have from any city council member or others would be useful and helpful to the institution in moving this forward.
Do you think this is just sort of the city trying to,
The city wants
cross
investment.
dot its i's and cross its t's because of the Donato
I believe
situation?
that
I mean, it
that's
just,
And I think that, but the gentleman will have more insight, but I do, so I think that's a big part.
The gentleman from the city kept on referring to his supervisor, so I think it's up more into the city council level that he's getting this advice to. But they've been great. They've been extremely helpful.
how is this though, that the spring of 2020 is when it should be completed or to commence?
No, completely.
Completed?
We wanted everything, when we initially started this, we wanted everything November 19th. This is a project that is going to go into spring at no fault of anyone, but a combination of us adding an additional floor and the design that created, as well as accommodating some of the requests, in particular from Sunset Heights.
And so we'll know we're not entirely giving up on the 18 months. We do have an alternate. We do have an alternate.
Safe and
Yeah. But I think we'll have sticker shock when we see that from the alternate. But we do have an alternate that allows us to do it.
When we talk about being okay, we mean that our procurement process, which is in place, is kind of going in parallel with that approval process of March.
Right.
So basically, we need that application to be processed in March so that when we hit the procurement and when we have a project to start construction, we have all the permitting in place. Otherwise, we would go ahead and procure, and then we're going to have to say, contractor, please be on hold until we get the permit, which is not the best situation. Can be handled, but it's not the best
Exactly.
situation.
Any other questions? Moving on to Trans Mountain, and like I told you last time I was here, we had this meeting. It looked like about a month before we probably would have to stop the project if we couldn't get any response from El Paso Electric and from Spectrum. Well, it was a little premature. It was actually 3 weeks. They informed us last week by the end of this week that they really ran out of places to work. It wasn't for them trying. They initially thought they could go ahead and cover the existing electrical loop, work around it, but it turns out that like a part of it is actually much shallower than anticipated. the concrete encasement of the line is actually all cracked. So basically, with this existing Spectrum line that they do not want to get close to at all because that's part of that Summit ring, they finally said, this is just as far as we can go. Eventually, this is what's going to happen. We're going to have the new El Paso electric line, which is this is the outline of the slab for the addition, and Spectrum is going to come around it, but until they actually get that work done, they really can't do anything. They will continue to work on things as far as clerical administrative things like submittals, RFIs, and the things they have to order, or items that they can order ahead of time. They go ahead and do that. But in terms of work on the field, they pretty much said that this is all they could do. They wanted to charge $800 a day for lost wages, but the Uniform General Conditions are very clear on that. Unless we, on purpose, cause their delay, they're not entitled to any kind of remuneration. And so, from that standpoint, I believe we're okay. But and they've known all along this is going to be a two-stage project, and to their credit, they thought they could do it, but they just can't. So this is kind of where we are on this. Any questions? Okay. As far as Valle Verde classroom, the main change on this, we issued the Arca de Lucia a few more addendums than we were anticipating, and so we got a lot of feedback from the local subs that they sure could use another week to look over it. And we really figured out that would be wise to do, particularly since we want to make sure they have a good long look at what the addendums are, and they were relevant. So we will get now, instead of being on the February 22nd, now we'll get March 1st, which is Thursday, we'll get the proposals coming. Now, the first action item, Northwest. In response to your request to look at the data and available enrollment and the available data regarding enrollment, we did look at the master plan from 2015. And as you can tell, this was back in 2013. They anticipated a pretty big growth in the enrollment numbers. We worked with the Office of Institutional Research, and they put this together for us. That brings it completely up to date, the numbers for Northwest for this fall and this spring. I arbitrarily used the fall numbers because they were higher. So using that 3278 number, if you plot it into the master plan forecast, you can see it's kind of leveled off. If anything, dropped off just a little bit. So contrary to what was anticipated in the master plan, it actually seems to be leveling off, basically telling us that within the next 5-7 years, we'd probably be okay if we were to cut down on the spaces. Now let me go into the what we talked over, just as a recap, just to remind you of what we discussed last time. So we started with being over budget after the January 9 proposals coming in. We were over $3 million. As you can recall, we did some, with the assistance of the Dean, we did some cost-cutting measures, and we came to $2 million over budget. Then we asked that we can use for funds from FF&E that's left over, that has told us that they'll be left over because they've already priced the furniture and the equipment. And then we said, well, if we take 40% of the total project contingency, we could be 1.14 million over. And at the time, as you recall, we didn't feel that was quite safe enough, so we said, well, let's set it at a minimum of 1.5 that we'll have to make it up. And our proposal was basically to phase the project. And We have 3 schemes to show you. I'm gonna bias the jury on this. By far, I think scheme A is the best, and I'll go into why. But for the sake of full disclosure, I'll show you the ones as well. This is the current floor plan as it is. It's important to mention, this is the way that the project will be bid. I mean, that's, the proposal is gonna be based on this. Then what we're gonna do, we're gonna add deductive alternates that will bring the cost down where we need to be. And again, is keeping in mind that eventually maybe there's a phase 2 that comes about. The scheme A, which is by far what we recommend, is, as you can tell, and you'll see this in all of them, what I did, I put down what we're taking out down here, just to kind of give you an idea so you can get an idea what we took out. In this scheme A, basically what we're doing, we're taking one computer room out there. This computer room, we're taking, but we're keeping one. We're taking an art classroom, this one, but we're keeping one here. And we're taking all the faculty offices out, but we're replacing them here. Now, granted, there's not, like a reception area, there's not a workroom. This is purely just the faculty offices, but at least we're able to put these in here. And the reason we're able to put it, and I'll show you right here, these apparently, according to the architect, these were not even programmed spaces. This was leftover space that they said, oh, it would be nice to have a writing lab and a multi-purpose room. So these weren't even originally programmed spaces. So they were the prime, they're low-hanging fruit in our mind. Yes, sir.
Mr. Smith? Faculty have any real heartburn about moving it out of, I mean, do they have any, I mean, you've been on campus, does faculty have a problem being right in the middle of the whole?
I don't think they have a problem being anywhere as long as they get some relief from the faculty office situation.
Okay.
Wouldn't they prefer to be in the middle, closer to the students, closer to?
He hadn't been a faculty.
Yeah, so that's all the consideration.
Make them all the same.
I think
Make sure the desks are the same size, the pencils are the same color.
I don't think they're tied to being outside.
Now this will take care of the main floor.
Sir?
This will wipe out the main floor.
You'll take, yes, sir. You'll wipe out this whole wing, which is this area here.
But we still have that option when we go down to the bottom.
Yes, sir. And in a minute, I'll show you basically what's going to happen, the site plan.
Right.
But the answer is yes.
Notice that you have, in this plan, you have 8 faculty offices.
Yes, sir.
You're removing at least 9 faculty offices.
Well, it's
Is that
actually,
a problem?
no, actually, to answer your question, there's 8 faculty offices. What they won't be getting is like storage, is the, I can't read it real well, but it's like the visiting area, the waiting area.
So a small waiting area. This is for, they have somebody's temporary faculty. This would be like a game room for 3. Again,
Like a
that's-
bullpen.
That's one that wasn't, like you said, like it wasn't really programmed. It's just like ended up becomes a bonus space.
Right, right.
So my question is, if we use the other one in 2020, are we just going to add to these faculty? or
Honestly,
should we go down?
we really should program it based on the need at the time for how many faculties. You might need more faculty offices, you might need more bullpen areas. It really, at the time, we should be looking at what the actual need is then. If you take in consideration this, the answer would be yes. I mean, we could just come in and add some more areas, like maybe now that we're taking that writing lab, maybe that becomes a writing lab in that wing, but all that would have to be worked out with the college.
But given the new, at your office that did the projection of being roughly level, okay, so given that we're sitting roughly level at space, this gives us more than enough space for projected faculty needs, everything else.
We believe so, yes, sir.
So yes, to clarify, I think we had 8 offices here and we're adding them, so we're not cutting offices.
Right, exactly. It's the auxiliary spaces within that suite that we're taking out, basically.
And if I might, I think there's benefit down the road to re-looking at the use of that space.
Yes, sir.
If we get a phase 2.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
And seeing what the needs of the campus are at that time.
I agree. I think certainly it would be worth to rethink this 5 years down the road to see where the college is and what the needs are in terms of classrooms and faculty offices. Yes.
Pam, would you please note that Ms. Nájera has arrived?
Hi. So this is Scheme A, and again, this is the one we recommend. Scheme B, a big reason why I'm not actually, I'll show you B and C. And what he does, you can see down here, I'm not a big fan of this, although the architect kind of liked it, because we're going to have, if you think about it, we're going to have to build these exterior walls. It's going to be insulated walls, it's going to be insulated glass, it's all going to be a finish, and then you come and add that later, and this is all to waste. To me, seems not very a very good use of funds, because you're basically building 75 years later just to take it out. And to me, it doesn't make sense. And besides, if I go on to C2, you'll see it's kind of a similar, although what he's doing here is putting some faculty offices here on Scheme C. But let me show you now the site plan, what happens, because I think this is very important to take into consideration. So if we do it that Scheme A, what he does is allows us to bring all that dirt, all that fill, all those retaining walls back in from where we were out here to here. And he creates a nice space. There's the accessible space. They could go right into this main entrance here. And it makes it very easy in the future to even put a separate building for that matter. And just have maybe a common canopy here where you come in the center to go either right or left. And maybe even could step down where you don't have to come in and fill in as much this area. So I think the architect did a real good job on developing what it will look like if we don't build that now, but you can see there is plenty of space here to come in and take care of that. So we don't become landlocked, and it does, unless like here, for example, you can see how that could disrupt all this later, adding this area here, all these classrooms later. So for taking that into consideration, again, it would be deductive alternates. We would still try to get as much as we can, but I think this is a good way to address the issue and still live it in line with the adequate faculty offices and adequate classrooms. Yes,
With option A,
yes,
we're eliminating how many square feet of the total square footage?
it's right here. Let me show you. So on Scheme A, we're 6,200 square feet, and the architect, and rightfully so, used $230 a foot rather than the $250 that we're close to, just to make sure. But this about 6,200 square feet that we would be saving.
Out of the total?
Remind me.
35,000.
35,000. Okay.
So it'll be, and that's the amount of money we need to save about that?
Yes, ma'am. It's like I said,
1.5
no more than 1.5. We figured it would be safe 1.5. That comes at 1,426, even being conservative on unit costs.
And that's with all the other cost saving?
Yes, ma'am. It's with all the things I listed before, and you'll see in the
After
action
the
item.
40% contingency, all that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so then we're still taking out about 6,200 square feet
Yes.
in addition to everything else. But that's what you're recommending at least? We haven't done it
Yes.
yet.
You need a motion on that?
Oh, yeah, let me show you the action item. One more thing I forgot to mention is, this is the exact same chart I showed you about a month ago. And as you can tell, we're right on track up to the day. The only thing that I've changed on this was today's date. That's it. And we're right on track. They need about 30 days to produce the drawings. Then we need a little time to make sure all the procurement is lined up. We figured about a week to get that together. So it's right in line with what we anticipated back a month ago. So here's the action items. It's a little wordy, but I want to make sure that we capture all the items that we are doing in order to be able to make these buildings an alternate. And so this is basically a recap of what I mentioned earlier, where that you allow us to proceed with the reissuance of a kind of request for competitive seal proposals for the Northwest Classroom Lab Building Project with the following stipulations. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, sir.
Another question, I guess I was looking for Dr. Jerome, but she's not here, so we programmed in 2 computer rooms. Okay, now we've got our total computer, and our concept is that we need to make sure that we're ready and available for everything of such. Is this half of our additional computer room capacity, is that going to be adequate to serve all the needs? Even though, I mean, assuming Dr. Finley's projections, you know, she's got projections to have, so
Yeah,
that
let's
helps
put it
us.
on her shoulders, absolutely.
Stand by the numbers.
Well, I mean, we assume that we're saying your numbers are correct. I'm asking, are your computer, the computer room that you have, half of it is still will meet all the needs, assuming that we're going to go with her numbers?
Yeah, the good news is at Northwest, they have a really large computer lab now
Okay.
that serves the current population well. So this is in effect an addition to that, and I think that will serve us well out to.
In other words, the addition of this amount will serve any kind of projections that we have.
That's
For
the near term.
Correct. The caveat would be that this would be through approximately the 2022-2023 time. Because what we looked at is when this would be completed, as the board, moves forward and decides to ask us as a staff to move forward with anything in the future in the 2020 timeframe, this would really take us until that particular period of time. And then we could add that back in, Mr. Uxer, so that we would be looking at 2030 and beyond once we.
Well, the thing is, if Dr. Finley's projections are correct, I would bow on that. I'm not sure that we need any more than what we're putting in right now anyway. I mean, it's hard to, if they go flat.
Am I mistaken on your projections? Actually, I think that I worked on those with our master planners, Mr. Uxer, and that's what we're seeing. Right now, the 2 campuses that grew are Rio Grande and Mission. Now, long term, they are all projected to grow, but the Northwest has started to flatten out. We're adding a significant amount of space to Northwest with this. I give the credit to the architect and the project manager by reducing the footprint that was the least impactful. The 1 computer lab, 1 classroom, and then repurposing those faculty offices.
And are we still adding,
We're adding a substantial.
with
So
6,200?
we're adding 15 classrooms. We're adding 28,000.
Right, and we're not getting rid of any classrooms.
We're getting rid of
Yeah, there's
some.
The art classroom, yeah.
But the point is that we don't see El Paso's growth that much. I mean, the population growth appears to be back the other side of the hill.
Correct.
I mean, and it's landlocked, if you will. I mean, you got New Mexico and the border and everything else, so.
We need the space that we're adding.
And maybe all,
Well,
maybe.
so if I look at voting patterns, it may not go. We may need a little bit more. And the other thing that we know we're going to need at Northwest, as well as all of the other 5 campuses, we know that we're going to need substantial renovation. We know that we need to work on student service areas and renovating some of those areas, so that will be part of it as well.
And I'm
I'll make a motion to take that item there.
Second.
Option 1, correct.
So whatever that says up there on the board.
Thanks for not making me read it. Okay, and now we're gonna get into.
You gotta take a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You just gotta
I'm sorry.
motion in a second, take a vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The motion passes.
Now you can move on.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now this is about the Rio Grande Alley vacation that went back to y'all last March, I believe. And David is much more familiar with what went on at the time, so I asked him if he could kindly cover that for
Ready for another one?
There's something has over here. Okay. You want me to get it?
And almost. All right, back to, there we were, okay. You all may or may not remember back in, because it's been a year, At the time, this is the exact item that you authorized us, and you authorized us to look at the rezoning of Rio Grande campus, which of course you know the process that we just talked about, where that is, but also to look at the vacation of the alleys. At the time, it was our recommendation to seriously consider that, and just while we're at it, for the future of the campus, so we're not bound by, things that we don't own within our campus area. However, long story short, we looked at it, as you requested, we investigated it. Now, one thing to note too, this is a separate process, always was a separate process, separate application, separate case manager even, than the rezoning. So the two are not tied, the two are not dependent. In fact, they're not dependent at all. To do the Rio Grande project, we don't need the alleys. We propose not to touch them or use them at all. In fact, you will remember that this 20-foot alley right here, it actually comes 10 foot more in at the end of the day, so we can allow two-way traffic in and out this one entrance, our other entrance, of course, being off of Oregon. And then we're also relieving, Queen Anne House is right here, we're relieving that with that nice courtyard. So again, we don't need this, we don't need this, we don't, it's just kind of a bonus. Bless you. And we looked into it. I'm just going to make a strong recommendation. We've looked into it. Indications are, if we did this, the city would appraise that at full value and make us pay full value. We don't have those kinds of extra funds sitting around. If we did, we'd probably improve our instructional spaces rather than this. Also, the really bad thing is talking to physical plant. There's an 8-inch existing main sewer that serves not just us, but the entire neighborhood. We would take over the maintenance of that. That's not good. So things like that. Also too, if any utility that's in here, there's some El Paso Electric coming this way. If any one of them objects, that complicates matters entirely. They may ask for the rededication of easements. They may object entirely. But the real bottom line is we don't need it. And right now somebody else is taking care of it. And also in talking to the campus through the whole program and exercise of this facility, we talked about even the future. Well, what are we going to do with that? Well, we still need this alley. We still need access to the rear of these buildings. We still need access here. We have no plans in the future to take these alleys and perhaps turn them into a plaza. We need them for car circulation. What is the point of the alley vacation? Therefore, I am recommending, since you formally approved as an action item, I'm requesting you to formally rescind this pursuing the alley vacation for Rio Grande.
Make a motion to rescind the March 20th request to pursue an application to the city of El Paso for vacation of the alleys at the Rio Grande campus.
All in favor?
You had to second it first.
I just did.
I didn't hear.
I'm sorry, Dr. Green. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Any other questions for Ms. Ron?
No?
I'm just curious to
Oh, yes.
what the value would be.
We don't know. They would actually have to run part of the application process at the very end would be to hire an appraiser at your cost to appraise it. And we gather it's downtown land. We gather it'd be rather expensive. I'm sorry, I don't have an estimate for you what it would be.
I'm sure El Paso Electric would want
They donate
access
access
to
to
that or any of the other utilities.
Well, you raised donation instead to build a new.
Thank you.
That concludes, thank you. Any questions? Are you serious?
Seems too easy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's pretty simple.
Under unfinished business, no, thank you very much. Any other questions for ECM team? No? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Seems like there's something wrong, we haven't gotten into a big discussion.
It's still early.
But tell Mr. Robles you said.
Yes. For Ms. Report, just so everybody knows.
And both Dr. Graham and Mr. Uster are here.
Very end of this This is what she told us she wasn't going to be here. She's got a lot of objections.
Yeah. Just a couple of items under unfinished business. Do we need to go to executive?
I have plenty of items to discuss with the board.
Let's just talk about this real quick, and then we'll go into executive. We had discussed having a April strategic planning meeting. event. We have two dates that that for the board to consider and retain, April 13th and 14th.
What is this for?
So what we do, thank you, Chair. Even years, the board and I have a planning workshop. Odd years, I work with the cabinet on the planning workshop and on planning for the institution as a whole. So we usually do it in late spring, early summer. We're moving up for a very specific reason. Part of our, now this is all Dr. Penman instruction. So part of our QEP, our 5th year report by SACS, requires, there's a new piece on there, and it is a board self-evaluation.
Yeah, what I've been talking
And
about.
so we need to make sure that we have this in place, and I want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable, so we're going to move that up in a couple of dates that the chair will share, either in April or in May, so that we can do that. There's some other items that we would like, so Shaughnessy and Mr. Flores and I have talked about presenting to the board. Mr. Uxer has requested that we look at and present to the board a 6-year budget planning cycle. Currently, we're doing a 2-year. This is what Lone Star has done. We'd have to obviously adjust. I don't have the expertise on spreadsheets that my finance colleagues do. So they're much better than I am. They will, by that time, will give us time to be able to present this to the board. I've spoken to Dr. Gonzalez, also looking at a potential enrollment presentation to the board so we can dig deeper in. At the same time in April, we'll have already started our college-bound events with Socorro. Some areas that we can look at in mitigating those particular pieces. Those are 2 for sure that I'd like to have in there. Then obviously looking at bringing in a consultant to work with us. Right now, I'm leaning towards Dr. Bill Holda. He's the former president from Kilgore College. He was president for over 20 years. He's retired now, was a SACS person as well. So somebody I think that would do well.
And I think there was a couple items that
Absolutely.
we as a board had discussed that we wanted to talk about and pursue some other information on.
13, 14,
The 13, 14. Yes, sir.
Question, we've already scheduled for the 13th employee recognition dinner at noon, so make sure.
Lunch, but yes. So we feed you and then we start.
I will be
Recognize-
there. I'll be in Ohio with the live AC. So the 13th would be a half day or full day?
Half day. We would look at half day on the 13th and all day on the 14th.
I'm
What,
from the 10th to
after
the
the
15th.
recognition dinner?
It's a meeting.
After the recognition lunch. Not so much, yes, sir.
The way.
But I mean, we want to make sure, so we
Yeah.
already have one conflict, so.
The alternative is May 18th through 19th,
And it doesn't hurt us, it gives us more time to plan.
but we can't go beyond that. In fact, even leaving April,
What is the May, what?
May 18th and
May
19th.
18th through 19th.
That's my birthday weekend, I'm not here. Sorry.
No? Okay, so.
We'll look at
it's-
some additional dates here, let us work on it.
With May 11, 12.
Commencement, I mean, we talked about that, Pam and I talked about it, we wouldn't obviously do anything on the 11th, but we could do it on the 12th, the 13th, let me just say for 4 of you all, it's Mother's Day weekend. And
You'll be in trouble.
I won't be celebrating with my mom, but the mother of my children might have.
And what's the first weekend in May? What's up with that one? May 4th?
How about the 20th?
May 4th and 5th is fine. May 4th and 5th, well, the 4th, we have faculty and staff recognition.
And the 5th is if there's a runoff.
It doesn't affect me at all.
I know, but I'm that's all I'm saying.
Exactly.
27 of April.
You're out of town.
I am in, that's the AACC convention.
Yeah, we looked at Williams.
Y'all already looked at all
Yeah,
that, okay.
so it was, the only date that we had looked at that we didn't share was the 11th after commencement, but that was,
It would be the 12th.
right.
And
So it looks like it's gonna we're gonna have to probably end up with the 12th and 14th
What's the 14th?
of April.
13th.
13th and 14th.
How about the 13th?
said 13 and 14.
13th and 14th, yes, there you
Okay.
And the board has a meeting on the 12th as well.
go. All right.
Facilities.
12, 13, and the 11th.
And the
12.
13th is Thomas Jefferson's birthday,
Oh,
but it's not a grand holiday, so I'm just saying.
okay, all right.
We'll
So
continue.
Father, good.
13 or 14?
13, 14. So unless something crazy happens, we can just start scheduling that. So we'll start moving forward on this. Anything else in the unfinished business for right now before we go into executive?
And is this exec gonna take,
Yeah.
this of executive at the board meeting?
Unless something comes up at the meeting, I can discuss everything here.
I just have one thing that we can talk about that doesn't need executive. This is the rules that TA finally put up for those students that failed the tax test in years past, and the legislature that went through approving for them to graduate to receive a diploma. And these are students that completed all the coursework there throughout the state of Texas, but they were not getting a diploma because they did pass a portion of the test. So now, thanks to Senator Rodriguez, that got approved, he introduced that bill to the education
We'll finish our
advisory.
conversation.
And what districts are going to do, because the rules have to run for 30 days, and then the districts are going to have to identify those students and move towards one of those 5 criteria or the lower one that they can create to give them a diploma. Most of those kids have not been able to get into college because they don't have a high school diploma. So I was wondering if you could assign somebody to be on the lookout for those lists of students so that we can send them a recruitment letter to get them into the college as soon as they get their diploma.
Dr. Graham, I think this is outstanding. So this is everyone that, this is entered grade 9 before 11 and 12, and then all the way until the spring of 17, it appears.
It goes back further.
Oh, it goes back even
Uh-huh,
further.
like those that came
That's
in,
right, entered
all
before
the
11 and 12.
years that they were not. Now, the current test, the STAR test is much easier than the text test was. But they're still either going to have to take a test, and it's going to be left up to the district. I know Socorro is going to try the test first, but if they don't pass it, then they're going to award the diplomas based on the lower criteria.
So what I would like to do, if we can work with Socorro, because number 5 is, they may have come into the college and paid on their own, and it shows if they've successfully completed a college level course. If they've done that, Dr. Graham, then if we have those lists, we can check our current enrollment and then go back to the district and be able to do that. So federal financial aid used to have an ability to benefit. The ability to benefit never got reinstated. So the ability to benefit provision, what that allowed students to do that hadn't graduated from high school, we could allow them to come in and on their own pay for coursework. And if they passed 2 classes, they then qualified for ability to benefit and could receive financial aid. So there may be some students, that went away approximately 5 or 6 years ago. So in the in-between, if we have students that have passed a college level course, we can let the district know and they can provide that high school diploma.
So the first thing would be for us to identify it by requesting the names from the districts, and it's going to impact all the districts in Texas, so definitely all the county districts will be impacted, because that would be a prime group of students that we can recruit
Absolutely.
to come in and start taking courses if they haven't.
And so you're correct, and so the point of contact will be Dr. Gonzalez and his team, and so we'll make sure that we follow up. We look forward to this, but this is good news because there's several different ways for them to have, to become eligible for a high school diploma, which you're absolutely right, it enables them to receive.
And I'll give you an example of one that kept calling every week practically because he owns a business, a very profitable business, but he couldn't pass the math test way back then in 2002. So, you know, he doesn't have a diploma. He's so excited that he'll be able to get it. So there's a lot of stories like that. So those are smart people. That test was ridiculous.
So we only have,
And we only have 1 year.
That's correct.
Because it's only good for 1 year. After that,
Everything
That's
expires
it.
September of
It's
19.
1 year. That's why I have urgency for us to begin to address it with the districts, the testing department in the districts, because those rules have to sit for 30 days. So it'll be probably March, and then,
April.
it's gonna be April by the time the whole thing is approved and ready for us to move forward. So from April, we only have really less than a year.
Yeah, 14, 16 months.
To get them, get their diplomas and get them.
Okay. Yeah, we'll work on this, Dr. Graham, thank you. We'll work on this. I'll
You
make a
can
copy.
keep it,
Thank
no,
you.
I have enough.
Excellent.
I have another question.
Yes, sir.
Is it a law or state law about kids getting a GED that they can't do it when they're 16 or 15?
This is more Dr. Graham than me. I don't know that long. Is it they can't sit for the exam until they're 16?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, but I can double check on it.
Yeah, that's
Because that kid today, he's not going to go to school, but I told him to come get in the GED program, and then the mother comes back and says, well, Judge, you got to give me a court order. I said, you shouldn't need a court order. If the kid is 16 and wants to take the GED, I don't understand. Is there a law?
I'm sure there is statute, but I'm not familiar. It's K through 12 statute that I'm not
I
familiar
mean, if you
with. But I
need a
can
court
follow up,
order,
Judge.
I'll get one set up, but I've never had to send one before.
It may have changed. I don't know, Judge. That's an area that I don't know, but we'll find
Because
out.
I know the schools don't want a GED. They're more worried about their attendance and all. And
Graduation.
I'm more worried about the kids.
Sure.
I don't care about the attendance with the school, but I got a 16-year-old.
We'll follow up and check what the age is.
I mean, I appreciate Mr. Gonzalez helping me out this morning, but if you have a problem on Monday, let me know. If you need a court order,
The
you know,
requirement
Dr. Shalata,
in
you can call
Texas,
me.
the requirement in Texas is
Or I'll give you
18.
my son.
They may test at 17 with parent consent, permission, if they're not currently enrolled in school.
16-year-olds is.
So
the exception.
students may also test at 16 if they're in the care of a Texas state agency or under a court order.
Okay, so I guess you need a court order, so I'll write one up.
There it is. Faster.
To go back to that prior item,
Yes.
since Dr. Gonzalez is here, how difficult will it be for Dr. Gonzalez's team to come up, since this window is only for a year, to maybe give us follow-up every other month or once a quarter on how many people we've reached out to, how many we've touched, how many we've followed up
So
with?
what I would say, Chair, is we don't expect this to be approved till April. So then what we would do is at the May meeting, we'd be able to, and then I'd say bi-monthly to be able to provide. So May, and then give us the summer, because other than Socorro, most of the districts are going to be out. But it gives us an opportunity to follow up, so absolutely we can provide updates.
The years, it's going to go by so fast.
Every other month.
And I don't know how difficult it would be for Dr. Gonzalez's team to do that, but I think from our perspective, I think it'd be good to know how many,
But
whether we're
Dr.
making.
Graham's right, this is a key recruitment effort for these students, not only to get their diplomas, but then to enroll into the college, into the programs or into associate degree programs.
And going back to that GED, most of our students are struggling to pass that exam, to get their GED.
It's hard, it's a hard
It's a
exam.
very tough
very
exam,
difficult.
so if they didn't do well in regular classes.
I understand
The GED
that.
got
I
hard.
have students that come in front of me that absolutely refuse to go to school. And the parents sitting there crying their eyes out to judge. So my other option is to say, okay, go get a GED. If you think it is easier, he can come sign up with these guys and he may find out that it's harder than going.
But Your Honor, we could set up a charter school for those kids. The districts are not moving on that. We could have all your population in there that you're struggling with.
But you gotta remember also, I don't get that many kids. I mean,
Because
I went from 4,000 cases to about 20.
And you saw the most recent, ABC did the story on it, on how far down attendance is at all the districts because of that law. You warned them, Judge? I was with you in
God
Austin.
forbid the legislators figure out that they made a mistake.
You know how much money the districts are
Senator-
$2 million last year.
Senator Whitmire.
EPA.
Yeah,
But they'll come back, but
But in the interim, we're trying to help these.
my problem is I got a kid that's out running the streets, and I want him to get, when he gets a
But you know
GED,
what, Dr. Sagata has experience with charter schools at the community college.
he does.
Yes, he does. He's
It
just-
doesn't look like he's really ready to
Yeah, I
move
think
on.
it doesn't look like.
My superintendent's
His
certificate
experience
is
It's coming
expired.
through. Don't go there.
My superintendent certificate
You
is
can do
expired.
it, sir, that's nice.
Not a problem.
Anything under?
So there are some really good partnerships, so I'm open to looking at these.
Well, the thing is that we approach the districts and, you know, there's really not,
An appetite.
well, a commitment actually to get that done because they're not dealing, I mean, ours are going into the auctions. And as you're familiar with that, they're doing okay, but there's still a lot of kids there throughout the city that don't have that kind of a setting where they can go to. They don't have anywhere else to turn. I know what he's saying because we deal with those parents too.
And my other opportunity is Early College High School, but they're full.
By one time, what's his name said that they would give us funding for,
Chairman Alcantara.
no, the other guy, that he would give us funding. Remember, every time he was drunk and we forget about it and he never did?
Fitzpatrick.
Fitzpatrick.
I told you, it's the Irish, yeah.
He told me that he would give us the funding to start an early college high school for kids that have not made it through the regular high school process. And I'll hold him to it because he said he would.
It would be great for me, because I've got kids that, they
The whole
just
city's
refuse to
got
go
those
to school.
kids.
Huh?
The whole city has kids like that. We could have a huge population.
But I'm talking to the choir, because you and I went and talked to all of our legislatures, and they listened so well.
And we even had a group here.
Follow up with John.
Would they be eligible for any financial aid if it was a charter school?
I don't know, that was my other question. This guy is
No,
member.
They have to be high school graduates, yeah, and
They
so
have-
they'll have to be high school
Can they have
graduates.
concurrent courses?
Yes, that they can,
Because that's what they have at options, so
Correct.
they have the concurrent.
and we have it at CCTA as well.
Dual credit kids can't get a Pell Grant?
They cannot,
They cannot.
they cannot. You have to be a high school graduate, right?
That's one question. They're going to college, why can't they get a Pell
What
Grant?
else do we have in there?
What else?
Unfinished business?
I thought we were doing one into executive.
We're finished. Anything else under unfinished business? Nope. Okay, then we go in executive.
30 minutes.
Time?
Time is 5 PM.
You gotta talk to me.
At any time, the Board of Trustees may conduct an executive closed session pursuant to Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code for one or more of the following reasons: consultation with its attorney to seek or receive legal advice, or consultation regarding any contemplated litigation, or for any purpose authorized by law, discussion about the value or transfer of real property, discussion about a prospective gift or donation, consideration of specific personnel matters, discussion about security personnel devices, discussion of certain economic development matters. The Board of Trustees may also announce to go into executive session on any item listed on the agenda if the subject matter is permitted for a closed session by provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code.
So the new date.
Any vote regarding these items shall be taken in open session.
Right?
That's what he says.
And is that something that you recommend? I mean, or you're okay? What were the amounts? It was, I thought it was like a $1, $2, and
Well,
a $3.
we always show the board a dollar so that you understand how much $1 provides in revenue. That was never a recommendation. My recommendation was lower, quite frankly. The board's recommendation, which I totally understand, you're holding us and asking us to do a 2-year tuition increase. And so last year we did, what did we do last year? Yeah, we're back in session. We did, not last year, but 2 years ago, we did 10 or 12? 10. So the board was looking at another, for 2 years, was looking at another 10. My concern with
I thought
10
we were
is it
looking at
puts us,
11.
my concern, the board did
Yeah.
look at those. My recommendation is to do 8, and here's why. 2 years from now, we're gonna come back to you with another tuition. We're doing 2-year increases every other year. So we're doing a 2 year so students know, here's my tuition. I start fall of 2018. If I finish by summer of 2020, my tuition is the same, it doesn't change.
It's an incentive to do it 2 years.
Correct. But I know that in 2 years, we're gonna have new buildings that are gonna be on board. We're gonna have to raise tuition. And my concern is by going to $8, we tie for 4th highest in the state amongst the 50 community colleges.
But see, the thinking also is to be considered that we can't be increasing the tuition and going for a bond at the same time.
Correct.
That's counterproductive,
Exactly,
or they'll be plastered all over the paper.
right.
That's
So,
correct.
This
So we
gets
might
us,
as well bite the bullet and go higher now.
I don't see, I don't think.
This is really a board decision. It's my, but I'm not
And
gonna
this would
turn
get us
away
how much
another $1 million.
revenue would this generate us?
Every dollar of revenue based on current enrollment is approximately $450,000.
I will say that I think the only people that pay attention to what the other district charge is Dr. Serrato.
True.
No, Michelle.
No,
No, you're right. I mean, not even,
No,
I think the fact-
nobody else here will pay attention to what they pay at Lone Star, San Jacinto, or
I think that's fair.
Amarillo Junior, whatever.
I think that's fair.
So I don't need to worry about being fourth, first, or last.
This is you're absolutely right. I actually can, I think you're right. I look at that. Our students don't. You're right. Our families don't. I think Dr. Graham's right. So currently, we would be scheduled to entertain another tuition increase in the fall of 2020, and Dr. Graham's absolutely right. If we're looking at a bond in November of 2020.
See why we didn't go for 12, that's it.
so then, is this, so
Six
does
and six.
this help us not be in this position, or are we gonna still
No,
be in this position?
it wouldn't be 6 and 6, it'd be 12 and 12.
It would be 12 now.
12,
and then it
that's,
would
you
go
know,
to-
it-
but over a 2-year
They
period.
could phrase it as, well, you know, it's $12. You sort of have to.
So this won't help us get through the 2020 bond, or it will?
12 would be much more feasible.
We went for a higher amount.
So if,
then
in the board meeting
won't
tonight, if
necessarily-
make a motion that we then
The
move
board-
to 12.
The board can do that.
If we go
About
higher
30
now, we might not have to have a tuition increase
In
in
2020?
the year that we're passing.
Or a very
the
small-
The other concern is that we don't know what's gonna happen in
The
2019.
state, it's a really good.
The governor really wants to tie our hands, and it could be a mess. I mean,
Is that the 4% thing?
the 2.5%.
2.5%.
Yeah.
That's
So wouldn't
Well, I gotta
that,
make-
then, wouldn't that go toward then increasing it
That's
to
Mr.
$12 instead of 8?
I don't know if we'll get it or not, but you may.
And I think those are incredibly valid.
Well,
I
one
understand.
of the things that
It's a good point.
that I wanted to make sure that we don't, because I know that we've done better on the books, which is what the students are always were complaining about before.
And we're
Then
gonna
the
continue to
tuition,
do
the
what we
books
are.
was higher than the tuition. Then the other complaint that we heard was, okay, so here's the tuition, but we have all these other fees, you know, $50 for technology, $5 for this, $15 for that, and so those fees
Those
add
fees,
up.
they add up, and they add up
Or-
additional
Same,
revenue.
same.
And I'll give you an example. So for instance, parking. And a recommendation that's coming to the board is to increase the parking fee.
Right.
So those are self-sustaining kinds of revenue, not the staffing, but for instance,
The sport, the athletics.
well, and that's what I need to make sure that everyone, if we increase tuition, then we have to increase the same percentage that we give to athletics, otherwise we're putting them in a really bad
Right.
spot.
And we always do, we always
Correct.
put, yeah.
So that's one, Dr. Graham, but the other one is, for instance, parking lots. So the fee that we use on parking, we use that fee to upkeep, to repair the parking
Like
lots.
security,
Correct.
lights and all
Well,
this.
the thing is, you need to consider is that if you bite the bullet and said, okay, we're not gonna swing on it because they're getting beat about the face because of tuition. Parking, if they decide to cut it, then we're gonna face.
But do you,
But
do
they're
you see the
parking-
difference
yeah.
between, Anna was, when she was teaching, parking was more than the stipend she was getting as adjunct.
Pardon a minute, on what?
More than she was getting as adjunct.
As a teacher.
We're going up on parking from, our recommendation is from 25 to 40 a year.
$15,000 a year?
40 a year. And they pay $142 a student does per year at UTEP for parking. And they're not guaranteed a spot.
And that-
They're not guaranteed a spot. Is that daytime? We don't have the same issues they do.
So if somebody doesn't want to pay the 40 and go park somewhere else, they cannot be done?
Huh?
But if they
So
park
that's
on
a
the campus,
choice.
they're gonna get a ticket.
Right, but
Three
it
minutes.
is a choice.
Yeah. No, it's voluntary, you have to buy a ticket, but you have to
Have an
have,
entry.
you have to have a permit to park in a certain place.
That's correct.
Nobody says you have to buy one,
That's correct.
but you
By the way, that story on UTEP, every story that they showed the student, they showed behind the student a whole bunch of parking spaces available. I thought, really, if you're gonna do it when there's no parking, but oh yeah, I got a ticket today for $50 and there's like 30 spots behind them, completely empty. I noticed no one from UTEP was willing to go up.
They were celebrating 30 years of Dr.
Yeah, I remember it was on that webpage at the same time, that was amazing. She's starting her 31st year, which I think is silly that they keep saying that she's starting her 30th. She started in February 1988, it's now February 2018, she just completed her 30th year.
Wait. Are you saying that there's a correlation between a journalism major and somebody that understands math?
No, sir.
I'm glad Carrie's not here.
Are we adjourned?
They adjourned, but wow, this was just discussion.
Yeah, you used to.
No,
You ever see how much coffee?
Yeah, I motion to adjourn and go to the.